Hi guys, this is Ra and today I will be talking with Chaos on the major changes for patch 4.1 for League of Legends. If you want the minor changes, please look in the description below for the video on that. First up, we have Anivia. Her basic attack projectile speed is increased. Her Q and W both have reduced mana costs. And her ultimate have an indicator warning whenever she's getting out range of her ultimate.
Yeah, I think these changes for Anivia are actually pretty good because she's a little underplayed right now. And this might result in her being a little bit more played, and we can see her a little bit more often because she's pretty cool.
Just as a reminder, the change is on projectile speed, not the attack speed, so this should not change anything new about Anivia or the way you play her, except for probably how you timing your projectile to hit under turret when you're farming under turret, um, or farming early game in general.
Yes, so the projectile may not be a big deal, but I think the cost reduction is a pretty big change. Because what with her since her ultimate costs so much mana, making her Q and W a little bit less unforgiving in the late game is really good. All right, so up next is Annie. Her passive Pyromania has a shorter duration at lower levels, but starting from level 11, it's going to be about the same. But now her ult, Summoning Tibbers, will have a shorter cooldown starting at rank 2.
So what do you feel about those changes since you main Annie?
Yeah, at first, I thought her stun duration getting nerfed would hurt her early game a lot because whenever you play Annie, you have to stun them and then land auto attacks afterwards, and I thought this would be a big problem. But after getting a chance to try it out, it's not that big of a problem, to be honest, at least in her mid lane. But whenever she plays support, it's kind of a big deal because the AD carry has a lot less time to follow up on a stun.
Well, at least they're letting you have more time with Tiber late game to compensate.
I know, right? See, because now she has a lot better scaling into late game because she can use her ult more frequently. Like she'll basically have it every team fight.
For Evelyn, her Q Hate Spike have missile speed reduced, her E Ravage have damage changed to physical, and her ultimate now grant the shield instantly instead of a 0.5 second lag. I think all of these changes is significant because ever since Evelyn started to come out in Riot, they have been trying to change her significantly every time she got a patch, and those changes usually change the way she plays, the way people build her, and pretty much everything that's revolve around her unique stealth ability. But I think the most major change here is that they changed her E Ravage into physical instead of magic.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen an Evelyn build armor penetration, but maybe now I will. Like, can you imagine an Evelyn with Yomu's Ghostblade?
Oh gosh, like beside the fact that that's the worst item ever, yeah, that's a complete nightmare.
Hey, at least they gave her an instant shield. You can combine that with Yomu's, and she's unstoppable.
The old buff sucks for Lux because as you know I play Lux and I love being able to burst down Evelyn before she can put up her ultimate shield and ult me and all that good stuff.
That Lux burst. Though to be honest, I think the worst thing for Evelyn players is going to be her hate spike because it's not going to be as easy to max range it now because that is a significant speed reduction. It's quite possible that it'll become like a automatic skill shot, kind of like Lucian's Q, where people can dodge it like accidentally, basically. All right, so up next is Janna. The only thing they changed is her ult. She begins channeling it immediately as soon as she activates it. It has a shorter duration by a whole second, and the heal has been increased rather significantly.
On the last patch note, you mentioned that you are very excited for what they have in store for Janna in terms of changes for the new support change in the new season. How do you feel about this change?
Actually, I think this is a good step in the right direction now, because the way her ult used to be used, you didn't really need to rank it up because you just used it for the knockback and then you would have to immediately keep moving. But now the healing is so much stronger and it's right away. So since it heals so much more now. Yeah, I like it. All right, so with Jinx, they changed her health from her base health is lower, but her health per level is higher. This still results in lower health at level 18 though. And they changed her E so that it has a standard arm time to zero point 0.7 seconds instead of it being sort of random. They fixed the bug with it and they reduced the damage of it at early levels.
If you remember a few patches back, Riot says that Jinx early game is too strong and her late game is not as strong, which is why some people, if they have a very strong early game, they can kind of snowball her. But if they don't, they pretty much screw. The change for her starting HP is probably their attempt at balancing out her early game and late game.
Yeah, I can agree with their changes to her HP because she was pretty lane dominant, or if she even if she wasn't, she could just farm really safely. And I mean, I guess the early chomper damage is a good nerf too. But I didn't actually realize that it didn't have a standardized arm time to begin with. Did you?
Nah, I did not know this was a thing, and I think this is a really good change because now people can actually time her jumper right to escape. In the case of Nasus, his W or Wither have a range reduction. His ultimate Fury of the Sands no longer have increased casting range for Wither or Spirit Fire.
Yeah, so I can't say I know how much these will actually affect NASA's gameplay because I don't play them too often, but I know you play them quite frequently in the top lane and the jungle. So, do you think a 100 range nerf is going to hurt a lot, or?
Well, to start off, Nasus is very prone to kiting, and his only way of preventing kite is with Wither. So changing a range from 700 down to 600 means that Wither will now play a very specific role in certain group of ADCs. I usually split ADC in groups of the ones below 600 and the one above 600. The one above 600 are Caitlyn and Tristana and Jinx, the ones that were meant to have a very long range, and one of their most positive things is to have long range. And this change seems to be making sure that they still gonna have the positive long range against Nasus, that he don't counter he don't just overall counter every ADC with his Wither.
Well, that sounds like it's going to change his role quite a lot. Maybe kind of rein in the dog because he's been kind of dominating lately. But what about his ultimate? Do you think the range nerf on his ult will also be really bad?
Yes, I think the nerf on his ultimate is Riot's way of saying, hey, we hate Nasus and we want to nerf him because. But then again, I might be biased. But the range nerf on his ult guarantees that even when he's ulting, he do not become an inescapable force, so that he can keep spamming his low cooldown with the spell, and the long range allowing him to catch up to ADC or whoever running away from him and keeping them close to his ult so that it's deal damage. Now it's require him to have actually good positioning, not just start with an ult, go in and then just slow people down until he reach them.
So up next is Rengar, and what they changed with him is his Q, Savagery. The basic attack buff now has only 2 seconds to use instead of 6 seconds. They fixed some bugs with it as well. And the Battle Roar, the empowered Battle Roar heal on his W, has been reduced by almost half. So, yeah, rest in peace, Triple Q. Because at this point, you can no longer do the Triple Q because it takes longer than 2 seconds for the ult to give you 5 stacks of ferocity. So this will change his playstyle quite a lot for the more experienced Rengars. But some of the newer players that didn't really use the triple Q will only be very slightly inconvenienced by this.
For the change with his W healing, the healing have been a problem ever since he's first introduced. If you remember a while back, his W was nerfed because it gave him too much healing in team fight. So I guess that wasn't enough of a nerf, so now they decide to nerf it some more.
Yeah, Rengar mains are in kind of a pickle right now. The only thing they can really hope for is that the big upcoming rework they have planned will save him and make him really strong again.
For Riven, her base attack damage have been reduced, and her attack damage per level have been increased. Her Q, Broken Wings, now have damage per strike decreased. Her Veiler, which is her E, have her shield duration reduced.
Alright, so the Riven nerf. So many were begging for. Almost everyone was pretty much expecting it. It's finally come. The way they did it, though, is going to disappoint the people who can't handle the good Riven players. Because the shield duration being reduced really just means that Riven has a lot less time to hesitate, and good Riven players really don't hesitate at all. And the reduced early AD will probably just weaken her early level burst. But I haven't really seen how this will work practically in game, so we'll see how it works out.
So this mostly means that good Riven player can still do well with Riven, but bad Riven player may suffer.
Yeah, pretty much. So Shyvana, her W, Burnout, has the damage reduced per second, which results in the damage it does over time. It's less. Her E, Flame Breath, has less damage at low levels, and her ult has, well, it's a bug fix basically.
I think the W damage redux will be to lower her early game power as a jungler and a top laner. As a jungler, she will have a little bit longer time clearing monster camp, but that doesn't mean that she's not a viable jungler anymore. She can still clear them, just not as fast, which is fine because she do not use resources when using her skill. As a top laner, it will give some champions more chance to poke her without getting severely damaged by her W in melee range.
Yeah, one of the more annoying things about facing her top lane was her damage. Was her magic damage, which made it really hard to build against her because she did physical and magic damage. But with this nerf, I think armor is going to be a little bit more effective against her because her magic damage has been nerfed.
For Thresh, his W dot passage now show an indicator particle to allies to indicate that it's a clickable object, and the lantern also have a small collision radius. For his ultimate, the box, the delay on the wall formation increased to 0.75 seconds. The changes on Thresh Escape Lantern seem to be their way of trying to get players to make more plays with the unique escape mechanism, or in some cases it's the unique initiation mechanism. The added indicator will help new player to get used to the Thresh skill because if you notice low level gameplay, a lot of players don't use the Thresh Lantern to escape and end up dying. And the radius collision will help making the skill a lot more viable and useful, so that early game the enemy doesn't put ward on top of the lantern or do other stuff that make sure you can't click on the lantern even if you want to.
Yeah, I think it's a good change overall. The lantern will feel a lot more responsive this way, and it won't have those weird little things with people dropping wards on it or whatever. I think the less responsive ult though will not be that big of. I don't think that's that big of a nerf because it just means that if the enemy uses an escape right immediately after you drop the box, they might have a better chance of getting out of it. And I mean, if they react that quickly, then I think they should be rewarded for it. All right, and finally we're at Yasuo. So his general changes are that there's a bug fix with static shivs, critical hits not applying properly. The functionality of using his E into his Q to do the little spin attack works a little bit better. His Q is automatically smart cast. His wind wall no longer blocks friendly Syndra orbs, and his ult grants maximum flow whenever he uses it, and his animation has been shortened, and there's a couple other bugs with it that have been fixed.
The change to the Q is once again Riot way of trying to help new player have better experience with hard champions like Yasuo.
Yeah, the max flow gain on his ult will let him make a lot more plays, I think. Stuff like with him ulting right into the middle of an enemy team, or if he turns around on an enemy that has less health than him, he has a lot higher chance of surviving those now. Other than that, overall, I think these changes are just smoothing him into what they really wanted him to be in the first place.